Hello, good morning and good afternoon to everyone. Dear distinguished participants, I am very pleased to welcome you all to the IACEE workshop on the role of engineering education for sustainable future. And thank you very much for joining us today. We have two distinguished speakers in our panel. First, I would like to just briefly mention about them. And then I am going to just briefly inform you about the schedule that we have planned for this workshop today. So one of our distinguished speakers will be Professor Beril Toktay. She's a distinguished professor of operations management and Bradley Family Chair holder at the Georgia Tech Scheller College of Business. And her primary research areas are including the sustainable operations and sustainable chain management. And our next speaker will be Dr. Mohamed Kafafy. He has a PhD in engineering management, and he's also a Doctor of Business Administration, having an MBA degree. And also he has a Bachelor of Science degree in mechanical engineering with honor. So before giving the floor to them, I would like to say some short ideas about today's topic that I'm going to share you also a few slides, just an opening remarks. So let me to check whether I can just show my presentation. Yes, I can do it now, right now. Yeah. First, I would like to put the issue why we are talking about the sustainability and what will be the role of the engineers. So I would like to make just put some ideas related with this issue. So in this figure, you may see that there is one graphic which I used from the last report of SDSN report, the Sustainable Development Report in 2021. It is showing the index of how we are going to achieve the SDGs. And it has started as 2015, and so far it was having a move upward to reach those goals. But starting from 2020, in the last year, this graphic is showing down. So, of course, this is mostly related with the global pandemic, but it is showing that we are not going on the track to reach these SDGs. And in another slide, I would like to show the performance, the global performance of SDGs. So in this ranks, there's a ranking among the countries in the left side, and in the right side, you will see the dots with green, red, and orange, which are showing the performance of the different countries. So in general, when you look to this, the table and the chart, it is not giving a good news for us. So all of the countries are away from achieving the goals. And if you look to this, the chart, and we are going, this index is going down, and the countries are having the grays full of the red and orange ones. The ones who have the green dots are almost achieving those goals. So in this perspective, I believe that we have a significant role as engineers to reach those SDGs by 2030. And in our today's panel discussion, we are going to approach this issue in different manners. We are going to start with Professor Beril, and she is going to give a speech about IE and OR perspective on sustainability education. And then Dr. Mohamed is going to make his speech on green education for a green future. So I do believe that this workshop will offer us a holistic approach to the challenge for sustainable future in terms of engineering education. And also, initially, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to IACEE team and Bogazici University team who work hard for the realization of this conference. And I wish to all the participants and also for us a successful and fruitful workshop. So first, I would like to give the floor to Professor Beril for his speech, and then we will continue. Thank you for accepting our invitation, Beril.
Thank you so very much. Well, I'm a graduate of industrial engineering from Bogazici University, so I'm really delighted to be contributing to this wonderful workshop. So let me try to share my screen, and I changed my focus a little bit. I broadened it from what I had said. I hope that's okay, but I will still provide the IER perspective. Okay, there's something a little wrong here. You're seeing everything, right? You're seeing like the notes.
Yes.
Yeah, we see the note version. There should be a swap.
Yes, there should be something here. Where would that be?
Do you want to click on that display settings and up at the top and see if there is a swap there?
Display settings.
Yeah, right there. Go up. Move your mouse up.
I'll share, annotate, remote control more. Maybe I see a different screen than you do. Show taskbar.
Yeah, next to it,
I think
see
if
display settings. The other thing you can do is to not run it with the full presentation mode, but just show us your slides. Have we lost you?
Prof. Beril, have you problem in the presentation or what? The screen stopped.
I think we lost Beril.
Problem in the internet?
Yeah, connection problem maybe.
Yes.
So she's going to join us again. Yeah, she's trying to connect again.
I'm sorry, I got disconnected. I apologize. So let me try that again now. Is that better?
Yes, definitely.
All right, that's great. So sorry about that. So I, like Dr. Atabarut said, I'm in the Scheller College of Business, and here I'm the faculty director of a sustainable business center. But I think what's more relevant to this talk is that I also created and served as the executive faculty co-director of a program called Serve, Learn, Sustain, which was Georgia Tech-wide, and it was an undergraduate program on the topic of creating sustainable communities. So I will draw from that as well in this talk. So this is the outline of my talk, just starting with how we use the sustainability frameworks, just like you said, and then what's the student status, so to speak, and then how we've tried to address that at Georgia Tech and what we can learn from that. So we all know this seminal definition of sustainability that was created as part of this first report, Our Common Future in 1987, the UN report, that is the development to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. At the same time, when we look at this from a engineering or even business perspective, it remains a little bit abstract and a little bit more perhaps economics focused. So there have been different definitions that have been proposed, and this thinking is evolving all the time. A definition that I really like is the concept of just sustainability, which is the need to ensure a better quality of life for all, now and into the future, in a just and equitable manner, while living within the limits of supporting ecosystems. And a framework that I use to describe this to the student is this Oxfam donut, which is a bit complicated, but basically what it's saying is that it's living within the ecological limits from the previous slide, is talking about, not pushing past the boundary where we have climate change, not pushing past the boundary where we have biodiversity loss. We want to be inside that ecological ceiling, but equally important is how the resources and resources are allocated, how development is happening in a way that serves people. And to look at the people side of things, we can think about what makes for a strong social foundation: access to water, access to food, access to energy, education, et cetera, et cetera. So where we want to be is inside this donut. And looking at it this way makes it easier, I think, for us to think about how the different engineering disciplines map on to these issues. Another framework that, again, you mentioned, which brings together this social and environmental side of sustainability together, are the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And here, what we always underline is that there are some that are strictly environmental here, like life below water, life on land, clean water and sanitation. But there's also some that are, strictly in the societal sphere, like no poverty, eradicating hunger, good health for everyone, and things that are really at the intersection of that: decent work and economic growth, creating sustainable cities and communities. So all of these tiles, again, make it more concrete and a great framework to think about how to communicate about sustainability and how to integrate it into our educational framework. Now, in our engineering programs, do we really develop the students' understanding of these goals and how their profession relates and contributes to them, or could contribute to them? Or are we remaining more narrow and specialized? So for that, I want to turn to Georgia Tech and some data from Georgia Tech. So Georgia Tech says that our vision is to be leaders influencing major technological, social, and policy decisions that address critical global challenges. And of course, those are exemplified by the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and that we want to be leaders in improving the human condition. Now, when you ask our students what we have managed to teach them while they're here, this is from the post-baccalaureate survey that we send our students 3 years post-graduation. So generally, our students are very satisfied. They rate a 4 or a 5, well-prepared or very well-prepared, in terms of discipline-specific skills. And that's what you see on this slide. But when you ask them, to what extent did Georgia Tech prepare you to understand the environmental impact of your professional practice? We see this really big drop from the 80s to the 40s. Understanding the social and cultural impact of your professional practice similarly. So this is something that we really have to be cognizant about. In qualitative surveys, students at Georgia Tech say that they used to have more focus on sustainability in their high school, and that after they came to Georgia Tech, they haven't heard about it as much. So this was the status in 2012. And I have to say that, unfortunately, it's still, in the big scheme of things, continuing. This is data I got yesterday from a team that did a longitudinal study at Georgia Tech over the last 5 years. And basically they asked, or they had surveys and interviews that tried to understand how students' attitudes towards social responsibility changes during their time at Georgia Tech. And the blue is entering, the red is graduating, and you notice the drop. So, this is a challenge. And so I very much welcome conversations like this to ask ourselves and share best practices and how we can reverse this trend and how we can graduate students who are more aware, feel more responsible when they graduate than not. So in a bid to, you know, the kinds of things that as an industrial engineering student, when I look back, we did production planning courses, we did scheduling courses, we did queuing, optimization, et cetera, but when we did those things, we never really had a discussion of, okay, if we, you know, optimize this way, what are the environmental implications? What are the social implications? And yet, no engineering decision is neutral in its environmental and social impact. And I think the very basic thing that we need to make sure our students realize is this fact. So I have some examples that I give to make that point. We have a huge literature on outsourcing and supply chain management. And typically our focus is low cost and meeting the demand at the right time, the right place, at the right cost. And yet outsourcing has the ugly side of causing a lot of environmental and social harm and not being responsible when it comes to things like child labor. So awareness about these implications matters. This is a map of food deserts in and around Atlanta. And a food desert is defined as an area where there isn't a supermarket where you can get fresh fruits and vegetables and so on, where there's only convenience stores. Now, when we make, as industrial engineers, decisions about facility place, like facility site optimization, placement optimization, site location optimization, we look at it mainly from the perspective of cost and logistics and cost to serve, but we don't necessarily bring in these social considerations, and we should. Another thing is scheduling. You know, when I was a student, we learned about aggregate planning, and we talked about the chase strategy and the level strategy. And with the chase strategy, you hire and fire people. That's how it was presented to us, in a way that matches your demand over time during the year. And with a level strategy, you keep the labor force constant, but then you have to keep inventory and you might have backlogging, which are costs. So this was framed entirely as a cost problem, but there's obviously a social cost to hiring and firing people. And this article here is basically talking about how our scheduling optimization tools that can schedule things down to 15-minute increments and can do real-time upstaffing and downstaffing in retail stores in the US and in Starbucks, this is a Starbucks barista, really leaves low-income people, especially parents, with hours of chaos. So that's something that we need to be aware of. And right now with AI, we have algorithms for everything. Unfortunately, many of these algorithms are developed by for-profit companies that have IP rights, and therefore these algorithms are proprietary. And they're being used for things with very strong social implications, like the risk of reoffending for people who have committed crimes, teacher evaluations, applicant screening. And it's interesting that, okay, I had put this Elon Musk thing here a while ago, and of course he's trying to buy Twitter and have it as unregulated as possible. So perhaps I need to rethink this particular slide. But anyway, so the point being, and I'm not the only one to say this, there's you know, people in the literature saying that we really need to focus on teaching our students engineering ethics in the context of the ordinary, not just disaster situations where we need to come in and, you know, rebuild, but in the everyday way that engineering decisions and professions affect the environment and social impact. So our effort at Georgia Tech, in response to what we found, was to create an undergraduate initiative called Serve, Learn, Sustain, which is short for Service Learning and Community Engagement for Sustainability. The goal of this is to give students the knowledge and skills that can help them create sustainable communities and advance sustainable development goals. And the way that we do that is to emphasize both the social and environmental side of sustainability and to lift up the issues of justice and equity, to bring into the collaboration diverse partners, specifically community-based partners and nonprofits, to interact with our students. The philosophy regarding engineering is that engineers are really crucial to solving the world's most pressing challenges, but they can't do it alone. So they have to learn to engage with diverse stakeholders, including communities, not as experts bringing solutions to problems, but as equal partners, valuing the communities, valuing the people for their own expertise and for the assets that they bring to the table. And we also want to inculcate in students a sense of agency, that they can be change agents, even if it's in a small sphere of influence. So how do we do this? So this has been now 7 years in the making, and it's pretty rich. And I have 2 slides. The first one focuses on coursework. So we have a large affiliated courses program where we support faculty in bringing some of these considerations into their mainstream courses. And this has extended now to 118 courses. In academic year 21, it was 118 courses, enrolling approximately 28% of our undergraduates. So in the regular courses, they get some exposure. In addition, we have some Serve, Learn, Sustain Foundation courses. We have 5 of those, and those are listed in the middle. And then we've also introduced study abroad programs to see sustainability in a global context, because at the end of the day, UN, sustainable development goals are global in nature. We have also developed, because curriculum is actually quite rigid regardless, and we have not really introduced many new electives or many certificates or things like that, but we've leaned hard on the co-curricular activities. So the Sustainable Cities minor is a minor. So that is one of the degree pathways that we've enriched with community engagement opportunities. We've created a non-degree pathway, which consists of 3 activities, one of which is a course on innovating for social impact. We have a summer internship program where we pay students to work at small community-based organizations that wouldn't have the resources otherwise, and we bring them together for reflection and learning exercises as a cohort over summer. We have, of course, events and workshops, and we have created a network called RCE Greater Atlanta. This is a UN-affiliated network of 10 universities, and itself, it has a youth network that engages students. And where what really distinguishes Serve, Learn, Sustain's approach is that they have long-term relationships that they're building with community partners, and they're really trying to change the students' mindset that they're not the expert. Yes, they bring expertise, but they need to be humble about it, and they have to recognize that they have something to learn from these community partners. So we call our community partners co-educators, in fact, and we pay them for their involvement. Unlike engineering capstones, where we normally ask companies to pay Georgia Tech for the capstone, for these small community-based partners, it goes the other way. So there's many partnerships, and one that I want to highlight is this West Side Water Alliance, which Georgia Tech on the one side is Tech Square, upscale. On the other side, it's under-resourced communities with a lot of environmental, water and other problems. So this alliance tries to improve those problems in the community with community engagement and to give them voice in local decision-making. We had engineering, civil engineering classes partner in a trash trap collection initiative and work with community members. So they brought their expertise, hydrology-related expertise, but they also had a lot to learn from these community partners about workforce development, about how they view sustainability and its importance to communities. That partnership has since grown to include a whole number of other distinct collaborations. For example, WAWA was a partner when we created the RCE. Now, what are we trying to achieve? We have defined student learning outcomes, which I won't read here, but we have 4 of them. And we have ways to try to assess formally through concept maps, through scoring of artifacts, through exit surveys, whether these courses are actually moving the needle in the direction that we want. And we have some evidence that this is indeed happening, and we're excited about that. One other program that is not part of SLS, but that I've done with a colleague in Earth and Atmospheric Sciences is again a co-curricular initiative where we tell our students who are taking internships, and this can be any internship, any engineering, public policy, business, whatever internship. While you're there and you're discharging your internship duties, look for a carbon emissions reduction project, figure out how much carbon would be saved if it was implemented, but also make the business case, then pitch it to the company and try to get them to adopt it. And our students have been super successful. The picture on the left is when SunTrust interns got SunTrust to change from mid-size cars to compact cars as their default option in their rental contracts, which saved SunTrust a lot of money and also had significant carbon dioxide emissions. So, takeaways, these challenges that engineers will be called on to solve are only accelerating, but we often don't provide education in the context of these challenges. And yet we see that a combination of creative curricular and non-curricular interventions can be effective and dovetail the existing curriculum that's more traditionally discipline expertise focused. So thank you for listening, and I'm happy to share any materials and answer questions later if we have time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your this challenging contribution, Professor Toktay. And at the end of the session, if you will have time, I will be pleased to raise questions to you. Thank you very much for this very challenging contribution. Yes, now I would like to continue with our second speaker, Dr. Kafafy, about his speech. So are you with us, Kafafy? Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
how are you, doctor?
So is yours.
I will just wait a few minutes for Azan. As you know, Azan is very high in the mosques beside our offices, okay? You listen the Azan, now is Asr Azan in Cairo. Exact time of break. Just 1 minute to can speak, okay? Now I will share the presentation. It's clear, full screen? Dr.
Yes,
Tamer.
Yes.
Full
Yes, we
screen?
can see it clearly.
Just I would like to introduce myself. Thanks for sharing and for joining this prestigious conference. My name is Mohamed Kafafy. I am the president of the World Green Economy Council and the Global University of Science and Technology. World Green Economy Council is an international non-profit organization registered in the US and Egypt and other nations, dedicated to green economy, aiming to transform the world from the black economy to green economy. This briefly. As a global university of science and technology, abbreviated by GUST, this is an online university registered in US, Indonesia, Mexico, also aiming to promote the concept of the global education. Today, I will try to introduce the basic concept of the green education for green future. Firstly, as you see, this is a process. Before, as my colleague, Professor from Georgia University, discussed about the concept of sustainable development. I'm always believing that sustainable development is, as we know, as a triangle of 3 pillars: economy, environment, and society or social. But always believing that the economy is the leading the 2 other pillars, or we can say the economy is a locomotive of the cars of the other 2 trades. Then when we're speaking about the economy, we can see the natural resources or natural capital, manufacturing capital, plus human capital for producing goods and services. Also, when we see the process of economical process, we will see the total process of economy, solar capital, producing is a main source of natural capital. As we see, economic system, including production, the consumption, and then this the emissions of the economic system, goods and the output, goods and service, plus heat, depletion of non-renewable resources, degradation of renewable resources, and pollution. This is a big issue, as we know. This is a main issue. Then when we're talking about sustainable economy, or economy you can believe in, or change we can believe in to achieving sustainable development, the main pillars of this economy is 7M: man, money, machine, material, management, market, and mother nature. We will find the first pillar is a man. As we know, the man is a maestro of all other elements. Then the role of education, and mainly engineering education in general, is how to develop man to manage and lead another 5 elements with respecting mother nature to produce a sustainable economy. Just for remember, as we know, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 2030, you will find goal number 4, quality education. Target 4.7 from goal number 4, you will find, or you will see, by 2030, all learners acquire knowledge and the skills needed to promote sustainable development, including, among others, through education for sustainable development. Then now, when we're talking about the education, or the green education is a must for achieving sustainable development. What is the concept of education, or what is the meaning? Firstly, let us understand or simplify what the meaning of education. Education in general, in any act or experience, as we see that as formative effect on the mind, character or physical ability for individual. The aim is accumulated or improving knowledge, skills, and values from one generation to another. Then there is a main issue of education is improving knowledge, skills, and values of people. As we know, there is two main types of education: formal education and informal education. Formal education is academic degrees, and informal, like training and professional conversion program and so on. Outreach is a provision of information or services to groups in society who might otherwise be neglected in an outreach program for people who cannot read. Awareness is not, we can say awareness is a part of education, but sometimes we can divide it. Awareness is just first stage in the process of learning about a new product or service. Then the green education concept, the need to continue heightening awareness and educate general public on environmental issues, and also promote actions that seek to minimize damage on the environment is vital. Now is a must. Then education, which includes formal and informal education programs, just aiming to improve human knowledge, skills, and values, and society reach their fullest potential. Education's awareness is critical for achieving environmental and ethical value and attitudes, skill and behavior consistent with sustainable development and effective empowerment of the general public in decision making. Then strategic objectives for green education. First, or we can say 4 objectives. The first one, create and build human capital. As we see in the previous slides, the first one of the 7M is man. Then we need to create man or develop man or create leaders in both public and the private sectors, believing the importance of respecting the environment and also developing communities and societies, increasing economy for achieving sustainable development. Second, to inform the public and stakeholders about the unique environment and its importance, to foster behavior exchange and stimulate environmental activities, educating the public about the policy and the program for promoting and achieving sustainable development. This is diagram briefly. What is the meaning of green education? For what? As we said, green education for equipping people or developing leaders in which disciplines? In the energy, recycling, electricity, climate protection, nutrition, and water. By the way, it's not only for engineering profession. We need management profession qualified in these disciplines. Also social science in these disciplines, all multidisciplinary people focusing and believing in the importance of these sectors. This is the main aim of green education or green education sector areas. Okay, after promoting, for example, to promote and get impact, ROI from green education, because education is an investment. We are educating for employment, educating for economy, not education for education. Then how to measure the impact of the green education? Because we're always believing that if we cannot measure, we cannot manage or improve. Then how to measure this? Some of the main parameters or the factors to increase or to measure the impact or the benefits of green education. The first is green gross domestic, it's not DGB, it's GDP, green gross domestic product, productivity, efficiency, effectiveness, environmental and social impacts, and the balance of trade. This is the main factors can measure the improvement or the impact or the return on investment in the green education. Green gross domestic product, as we know, is an indicator is slightly different by gross domestic product. As we know, the gross domestic product, unfortunately, not measuring the impact on the environment, not measuring environmental losses, just measuring the market size or sales of the, in general, all products and services at the same nation with a specific period. But the gross domestic product is inserting the environmental losses and reducing these environmental losses from gross domestic product. This is simply how to measure green gross domestic product for each country. It is a very important indicator, reveals that how this country respecting environment, developing people, and also increasing economy or maximizing economy. Another thing very important is the productivity. I'm always believing that all engineering activities and management activity, the main aim behind all this education and science, how to improve productivity, not increasing production. Because productivity, it means output per input, not only measuring output, but it's a ratio between output divided by inputs. This is a measuring productivity. Then the main aim behind green education and always all other engineering disciplines, how to improve productivity. Because if you are improving productivity, it means minimizing losses, improving performance, and also saving environment. By the way, there is a main factors: efficiency, effective productivity. Efficiency, it means how to produce the same output with less input. Effectiveness is the ratio between the actual and theoretical output. How to be our system effective, it means how to achieve its goals. Productivity is a father of efficiency and effectiveness because it's measuring output per input, then it's measuring including efficiency and effectiveness. By the way, when as you see this diagram, simple diagram, illustrates the difference or the relationship between quality and productivity. With no doubt, if we are improving productivity, sure, we are improving quality also because we are minimizing waste. What is a priority action to achieving green education in each nation? Advancing policy, transforming learning and training environments to be focused on the green education. I'm always believing that transformation to green economy is for survive and thrive, is not luxury. Now the world haven't option. It shouldn't change or transform to green economy. Third priority, building capacity of education and training. Always we should equip, we should create or develop a large people or for education, for educators and the trainers to promote the concepts and the applications, empowering and mobilizing youth, accelerating sustainable solutions at local level. As we need the 5 P's of the 2030 agenda: planet, people, peace, prosperity, and partnership. Then we have to work on developing people, promoting peace concept through people, prosperity by developing and developing people and reducing people who is capable of applying the concept and application of sustainability. Then people will believe this prosperity is to achieve prosperity should be transformed to sustainable, and through partnership with all stakeholders. As you see, guidance, conceptual guidance on learning content and approach to teach key sustainable development challenges, structured along the SDG, providing age-specific learning content for each sustainable development goals, address key competencies needed to implement SDGs as well as transformative better to teach them. Monitoring. As we said, we have to measure, we have to monitor, we have to improve again for continuous improvement. Then we have to monitor all activities towards the Sustainable Development 17 goals. Then we can measure the impact and the result of our we doing. Thank you for listening, and my pleasure to answer or to any of your inquiries or questions.
Thank you, Dr. Kafafy, for this holistic approach to the sustainability and how we can just combine the education. So the floor is open for the questions and answers. But in the meantime, I would like to thank both of our speakers for their challenging words. And as we are just trying to make our future sustainable, so we need more robust curricula for the engineers, not only for the engineers, but for all our students in the universities. But also we need a holistic approach for in every sector. And what I inspired from Professor Toktay, I think I may try to just combine what you have did in your university. Maybe we can just combine some of them to our university also in the different engineering departments. And as SDSN Turkey, we are conducting research about the curricula, how they are covering the SDGs and sustainability in the engineering curricula. Maybe from this outcome, maybe we are also planning to have a conference again in a local conference. Maybe also we will be pleased to invite you for this inspiring speech.
It will be my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And also, we need some time maybe for...
Thank you, Doctor. Sorry for bad connection. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Mohamed. But we just got your points and your presentation in your speech, so we did not lose your connection when you are making the presentation. And it was also very significant, just put the sustainability and the limited sources in our main focus when we are taking the issues as an engineer. So I think we will appreciate this. So I would like to first give time also for our next conference presentation, because in our next conference, which will be in June, there will be a track on sustainability, specifically on sustainability and how we can just contribute to sustainability in terms of continuing engineering. So I think now we may give some time for this brief presentation about our next conference. And maybe in the meantime, we may get some questions for you to raise, okay? So I would like to ask from our team, IACEE organization team, to say some words and make some brief presentation our next conference.
Thank you so much, Tamer. I'm Lisa Stevens. I'm an assistant dean at the University at Buffalo, and we are so excited and proud to be hosting the next conference. I am going to share my little stack here, I hope. There we go. I don't know if you're seeing just the PowerPoint or my entire screen, but hopefully the image is big enough. So everything that was shared this morning is just so relevant to what we hope to accomplish at our conference coming up June 6 through 10. And of course, we're very excited to welcome you to beautiful, sunny Buffalo. Don't believe anything about the weather reports you hear about Buffalo. It's beautiful that time of year. And one of the points I wish to emphasize is that the early bird registration is actually coming up next Friday. So we hope people will register. It is a hybrid option so people can participate hybrid, but we hope that people will come to Buffalo and boy, everybody seems ready to see everybody else again. It should be a wonderful time. We worked very hard as a committee to put together tracks that were relevant, not just to engineering education, certainly that's the focus, but really these are current issues in every facet of education and industry. Certainly, as we heard this morning about sustainability, and how are we going to best incentivize our students to think thoughtfully about going forward with sustainability and taking that into industry. The equity and social justice, I wasn't quite sure personally how that was going to come together. And I've learned so much just in the process of this conference. And I'm really excited about some of the speakers that will be addressing these issues. And entrepreneurship, oh my goodness. Again, super excited to have a local presence in Buffalo. We have a very interesting venture capital network that is supporting and bringing new ideas to market. And we hope this is something that other regions can adopt successfully. So without further ado, here are the keynote speakers that we are featuring in our promotions. Certainly our friends from IBM are going to be speaking to the points of neurodiversity and inclusion of the gifts that many people bring to industry, but so often some of the rest of us don't always understand how to best interact. So I'm very curious to learn more about neurodiversity in the workforce. Of course, we've got our friend Rachel Tan coming in from Nankai University. She will be speaking to entrepreneurship with, I believe, a couple of co-presenters. And Irene Petrick, I've not heard yet. I hear she gives a very good talk. And I'm a big fan of Jeffrey Sachs. I'm really pleased that he's going to be coming speaking about sustainability, thanks to Tamer. So, in addition to all of the conference topics themselves, we're pretty excited that we'll be offering industry tours to Buffalo Manufacturing Works and the CalSpan. I'm sure all of you are very familiar with CalSpan, where they have the crash test dummies, the actual dummies, not the band, and the where they did an awful lot of work with NASA and the like. So we'll also be offering a tour on Friday of a winery. That should be interesting. And all of the Maid of the Mist boats have been transformed from diesel to electric. So this will be the first time we'll be able to go under the falls and hear the roar of the falls, absent the diesel engines that were required to keep the ships positioned there under the falls. And of course, what would a conference be if we weren't thanking our sponsors? We're so happy to receive support to offer this conference. Again, I hope I haven't talked too long, but I am getting pretty excited about all of this. It's really coming to a reality after all of you know what's involved in planning. And I hope you will encourage your colleagues to attend. And that's probably enough from me. Thank you so much for your presentations.
Thank you, Lisa, for this presentation. I am keen on joining the conference, not virtually, but in person. Yeah, we have one question just directed to Professor Toktay, and she has already put some information and some ideas in the chat also directly, but I don't know whether she wants to also comment.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So the way that we run this program is we start getting the word out to students around April, May, that if they have obtained an internship for the summer, they can apply to the program. And we take everyone who applies. We typically get somewhere between 20 and 30 students. And then we don't need really to coordinate or get permission from any department or anything like that, because it's directly, you know, a relationship with students who are interested. The only way that we use our existing channels and relationships at the university is to get the word out to students. And we also do it through, you know, student-directed social media and other communications. And then the way that we run the program is we have some letters and information that the students can share with their supervisors to get permission to be part of the program. We say that they'll be spending about 2 to 4 hours a week on the carbon reduction challenge. And then we have built a number of milestones over the summer. This is typically a 2-month thing, where they first must come up with preliminary ideas, and we give them feedback about the preliminary ideas. Then we have some material that we've developed that shows them how to do carbon and cost calculations. And we ask them to do a preliminary pitch based on that, and we give them feedback. So there is checkpoints along the way where my colleague who's in College of Sciences and I give the technical and business feedback to the students. And at the end, we have a poster session, and we also have some funding, gift funding to provide monetary awards to students. I'd be happy to talk more offline if you're interested in finding out more.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think we are almost at the end of our session. So we came to the end of IACEE workshop on the role of engineering education for a sustainable future. Just before closing the event, I would like to extend our sincere thanks to our speakers for their invaluable contribution today. And I would like to thank also all of you for your participation. And I do hope to see you all soon in Buffalo. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. It was an honor. Thank you.
Thank you for all colleagues. Thank you. Nice to meet you. Hoping to meet you again, inshallah.
Inshallah.